us watch this than us talking. So this kind of shows a bit about Bert. So yeah, there's a lot in there, and that leads us to the company. I think we'll skip this a bit faster because we really, I think, want to let you experience the possibility of seeing what's it all about, the board, why they made. We have a little bit here that we want to touch on. It's, yeah, maybe Bert, just tell us a bit about why, you know.
Shall I stand over there?
Yeah, please.
Alright.
I'll
Come and take the floor.
I'm not sure it's easy to read this.
I think we've got them there. Yeah, well, I explained a bit before. Like I've been building surfboards for 30 years now. Started out when I was 14, working for Town and Country in Western Australia, sweeping floors, cleaning up bays, and then I eventually moved on to Santosha, which became Rusty later on, and another company, H2O. And then I was about 19. I started my own business, Sunova Surfboards, which was in 1988. And so that all started in Western Australia. And one of the things that I quite often did, like you guys do, you know, you take off for months at a time and you go surfing. And so I would do the same thing. Like I had my business, but then I was always, like every couple of weeks, off doing another trip up the coast, exploring. Like if you look at a map of Western Australia, I think we've got like 7,000 kilometres of surfable coastline or something. So it's a lot of coast. And a lot of it's quite remote and inaccessible, so you need a good four-wheel drive. And so that's what I would do. I would build surfboards, go to new locations, try them out. Sometimes I'd come back with my tail between my legs because I just didn't have the right equipment and I'd get totally smashed, and then I'd have to rethink my next trip, you know, go back again the next year with a new bunch of boards to try and figure out how to conquer some waves. So, you know, exploration was a big part of what I did, along with the R&D, because the R&D is just learning what boards work in what conditions. And you know, if there's anything I'm grateful for, it's actually growing up in Western Australia. Like it's got such a variety of waves. It's got like a whole world of waves in one state. You know, you've got waves that are similar to Hawaii on the south coast. The mid-west coast is very Californian. The northwest coast is a lot like Indo. Then you've got spots in between that are like Florida. So there's a lot of variety just in one location. And so the thing that I'm most grateful for was that I learnt to build boards to adapt to a really wide range of conditions. And when I got a little older and started travelling to other places, and then I noticed there were other board builders that built really good boards for their local waves, but because they didn't have much variety in where they were located, it didn't give them as much opportunity to broaden their design experience, I suppose. So if that's the one thing I'm grateful for, is where I was born and raised, to give me a good variety of experience. And then out of that came competitive surfing for myself. It didn't start until I was about 30. For probably the first 10 years of my business, I was more interested in exploring and camping in the desert and just sort of refining my boards and surfing. I sort of avoided the competitive scene. But then I got to a point where I realised that competition is actually part of running a business, like getting results in contests and having team riders getting results in contests validates what you're doing. You know, like if you look at Kelly Slater, he's won a lot of world titles, and if you look at Channel Islands, they're the biggest surfboard brand on earth. And so having Kelly win all those world titles on those boards really validates that they are valid performance surfboards. And you know, our Merrick's been able to grow a big business from that. So yeah, so later on I got into competitive surfing as well, which helped me even more, working with other guys to refine the boards and have them work and get results, to have guys win national titles and, you know, get world rankings and things like that. So it's an important part of what we're doing with the brand, and you know, to be sort of successful as a board designer. And you know, I've got my own personal ambitions of having someone win a world title on my board, so that's the next goal. We'll get there hopefully. And then, you know, in 2007, because of what I was doing with an alternative construction, something different, it finally got the attention of surfing media and the surfing world. And then with setting up Firewire. I was awarded Shaper of the Year, so that was actually a big surprise. That's been a boost in my career. And then part of my role in setting up the Firewire company was to actually go to Thailand and set up their production facility, set up the factory, design the factory and design the production systems and train the staff and so on. And so that was that's a bit of a lead-in, I suppose, into where we're at now. Like when I left Firewire, it was more to do with the fact that I've developed something that was pretty good, and they wanted to water it down a bit. And so I think, what's the word for it? Artist integrity. I was kind of more like an artist, and I was like, no, you can't do this to my product. And so their main concern was to make it better than what the status quo was. And better was good enough, but to me, it wasn't as good as what I could build. So it wasn't good enough for me, but it was definitely good enough for everybody else. So, we had sort of differences of opinion there. And I went back out and went back to my original thing, which was Sunova Surfboards, which was where Firewire came from. But in the process of going to Thailand and setting up their production facility, I realised that that was somewhere where I could base myself, where I could produce good boards. There's a lot of labour in these boards, and if you had to build them in the Western world, they'd be pretty expensive. So, and the Thais also are very good with their hands, naturally. Like, I've probably trained 50 or 60 people in the Western world to build boards, and I found that there was maybe 1 out of 10 people were competent enough to go on and stay being a board builder and make a living building boards, and 9 out of 10 would just go back to working at a bank or whatever they did. It takes a certain hand skill to produce a good board. And when I went to Thailand to set up Firewire, I had like 10 staff, and maybe 1 was no good and 9 were good. And I'm like, wow, these guys are amazing. They're just so much better with their hands, and they can really, I don't know, it's like a natural genetic ability to just produce fine craft. So then I thought from there, I have to come here. If I come here, then I can set up a better factory, better production facility, and also bring the boards to the world. So, and then I suppose this is where Martin comes in, because I'm a board builder, but then Martin really has a lot of experience with high volume production. So I'm not sure if any of you have heard of Cobra at all. Cobra is a large factory in Thailand. They produce in total maybe 300,000 boards a year?
Yeah, probably more. 800 boards a day. So they're basically the biggest windsurf factory there is, and so they build most of the boards that are built. Also Americs and Surftech, all Surftechs come from there. So yeah, that's where we basically have all our experience. My partner, he's coming from automotive. That's what we tried. The production facility that then we wanted to build was a different one. From the experience in Cobra, my line that I took care was about maybe 120 boards a day. Every day, 120 surfboards, mostly kite surfboards. I was responsible for that. And then, but the factory was so big and so corporate, it was just not really the right way to do what we wanted to do. We wanted to do it more like a custom shaper, a custom builder is doing it. And so we started our own factory, and that's where we got hooked up together with Bert and with my partner, who's basically coming from automotive system. We try to create a factory that is really small and works according to like Toyota automotive system, which doesn't exist in surfboard building. There's either guys like Bert who have or like shapers that have build one board at a time, but no real manufacturing other than Cobra, which builds a lot. And that's not really what we want to do. We want to talk to you guys and check out, okay, what do you want? We want to adjust the board. We want to create, like every board is different. These 3 points that we had in the end, they don't allow real mass production for surfboards. It's almost impossible. It's not like shoes or like, every board should be different. So that's,
so the goal, I suppose, is to have something which is a cross between a high production facility, but it still acts like a backyard operation. So every board can come off the production line different. So you can customise every board, but still have a controlled production environment. That's the.
So we are setting up, maybe, I'm not sure how interesting it is for you to know how boards are actually produced. When I first came to Cobra, I always thought everything is made by hand, by machines, and it just popped out like this, like this, like this. But it's actually not like that. It's really, the board really is coming from a piece of foam. It's shaped by a CNC machine for sure, because that definitely gives it 100% control. And then each board is a lot of handwork until it's really done. And so what we are trying to do now with this is that we really try to control the line and its size. So we're building a lot of small production lines, which are very similar to what the shaper usually do. And then we are building just more of them. So our factory has a production cell with only 5 guys. They build every 4 hours one board. Another 4 hours later, another board. And all 4 hours, every step that has to be done to make this board look like this and actually go into a box is done once. After 4 hours, it's being repeated. After 4 hours, it's being repeated, and it's going around the clock. And so we can build with one of these small mini cells, which actually fit in this shop. So we have a production cell, which is this shop, 5 guys, and they build every day. Every 24 hours they build 4 boards or 5 boards, depending if we do it like this. And then we build another cell, another cell. So our goal is to make this production system work. And then, because Thailand is definitely not the place to be for waves, so we need to get rid of Bert up to Bali. So we're trying to build a factory there. So, and yeah, the goal is actually it's also our personal goal a bit, to make a production facility support our way of life, and go to Bali, build up a factory right on the beach, which should be open for anybody. Anybody should be able to go there, see how we are working.
Yeah, our goal is to build like a show factory in Bali.
A glass factory.
Where people can come. It's kind of like a cross between a restaurant or a spot to hang out and a surfboard factory. So the idea is that we would set up the production line in a U shape. People can sort of hang out, and within a 4-hour period they can watch an entire